Stay off the weed.
Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, and holy shit, it happened. Kevin Durant gets traded to the Rockets, and Greg Abbott vetoes the THC ban in Texas on the same Sunday. Coincidence? I think not, but a huge day for cannabis consumers in the Lone Star State nonetheless. Kade for 3! Cannot wait to say that over and over and over and over. In what qualifies as a stunning turn of events, the Rockets traded Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 pick in the upcoming NBA draft, and 5 second-round picks to the Phoenix Suns for two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP, one-time League MVP, four-time scoring champ, and future Hall of Famer Kevin Durant. Now, there had been rumors about this trade potentially taking place dating back to this past season's trade deadline, and the fear from Rockets fans was obviously that we'd have to give up too much of our young core and future assets for it to be worth the obvious risk that comes with taking on Kevin Durant, which we will talk about shortly. But Rockets general manager Rafael Stone got KD, and the only first-round pick he had to give up is one we didn't have room for on the roster anyway. He kept Phoenix's long-term future in his pocket somehow. We still have Phoenix's 2027 first-round pick and potentially 2029 as well, depending on if the Suns or Mavs or whichever pick is more favorable there is the one that we get in 2029 in the first round. We still have assets to make other moves this offseason if needed. And probably most impressively, we kept Amen Thompson, we kept Alperen Şengün, we kept Jabari Smith Jr., we kept Reed Shepherd, and we kept Tari Eason. A huge, huge round of applause for Rafael Stone. I and everyone else who doubted this guy a couple of years ago when things were still looking rough owe him an apology yet again. Rafael Stone has stones and has built an incredible roster for this team. Now, the trade cannot become official until July 6th, and Phoenix has like 5 shooting guards on their roster for some reason. So there's a pretty good chance this trade expands and includes a third or fourth team before it is executed. Now, that does not mean the Rockets will be throwing in more pieces unless somehow the trade expands to include even more players coming back to Houston. We will wait and see more on that in the next couple weeks. My thoughts leading up to this trade, when the rumor mill really started swirling and it looked more and more like this might actually be a thing, were that we'd have to send too much Phoenix's way. Because almost all the hypotheticals I saw had Jalen Green and Reed Shepherd and multiple first-round picks going back to Phoenix. Pretty much everyone thought there's no way Phoenix is going to do this deal with the Rockets unless they're recouping all these future Phoenix picks that we have in our pocket. It was too much risk, and I didn't like that. Did not want to give up that much. But somehow, Stone got the deal done without having to give up all those picks. I'm still not really clear. I guess he just stuck to his guns and Phoenix folded. Because at the end of the day, it was us bidding against the Miami Heat, and we had more to give up than the Heat did, apparently. So, big win for a lot of reasons. One of which is that Reed Shepherd, who we kept, who will almost definitely be our backup point guard to Fred VanVleet this upcoming season, we're finally going to get to see him play. And the kid can shoot. He's a great, great shooter. And if he can be our point guard of the future, develop for another season or two behind Fred, that's a big win. Not having to part with Reed Shepherd is a big, big win for the Houston Rockets franchise. New Fred VanVleet deal should be imminent in the coming days. I think a lot of us expected to hear of it last night after the NBA Finals concluded. But, yeah, I mean, everybody just saw the results of what can happen if you do a homegrown rebuild correctly in the Oklahoma City Thunder winning an NBA championship, the first in their franchise's history. I don't count the Seattle Supersonics. And I'm not even sure the Sonics ever won a title. I can't remember. But that is what the Rockets have been doing for a few years now. Yes, we've brought in some veteran leadership in Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams and Dillon Brooks as well, who is now departed. But we've made our draft picks. We've held on to those players. We've let them develop in-house. We brought in a good coach. We just signed Ime Udoka to an extension a couple of days before this Kevin Durant trade gets announced, by the way. Another huge, huge move to secure this era of Houston Rockets basketball. Udoka is inarguably one of the 5 best coaches in the NBA. The Rockets have been doing it. They've been doing the homegrown rebuild. They've been doing it right, and they've been doing it in a way that is arguably the most satisfactory way to build a championship contender for fans, because you get to know the young guys, you get to watch them grow, you get to see them come into their own on the court year over year over year over year. Now, one of the guys we traded here, Jalen Green, is obviously somebody that we hope, he was the beginning of the rebuild. He was the first round pick of the rebuild. And all of us, or a lot of us, there was some haters, hoped that Jalen Green would continue to take the next step, to continue to get better, and to show that he could be a future All-Star, potentially a future scoring champion. And it just didn't happen. He showed flashes, yes, but the inconsistency and the ups and downs and the disappearing act during this last postseason run, which we, took the Golden State Warriors to 7 games, that's essentially what dug his grave. That's what got him traded. So, all things considered, there's a lot to be happy about here. And I'm going to explain more of my reasoning on why. Now, look, it should go without saying Kevin Durant has to stay healthy. He has had some injury issues over the past handful of seasons, right? Really dating back to like 2019 when he popped his Achilles in the NBA Finals. He's 36 years old. He has a lot of mileage. I am 38 years old. I know what it feels like to be getting up into your upper 30s. I'm obviously not a professional athlete whose entire livelihood is based on the health of his body and training, and I'm not the same level of athlete as Kade. Many people have argued that I might be close, but not quite. I know what it feels like to be getting older, and it's rough. And LeBron James at 40 is not normal. I don't expect anyone else to be able to perform at that level ever again, because it's never happened before. My point is, I don't expect Kevin Durant to be performing at the level he was this past season offensively when he's 40 years old, so 4 years down the road. Now, he's in his last year of his contract. This is an expiring contract. So will the Rockets extend KD? That is something that is yet to be seen. You have to imagine they probably sign him to a 2-year, 3-year deal. Maybe third year is a team option or player option. I don't know. We'll see. But it's not going to be a 5-year deal, I don't think. This is going to be a shorter-term deal. We are all in now. We are going for a championship. We have the roster. We have the pieces. We have the coaching. We have the depth. We just finished as a 2 seed in the West, and we inarguably just upgraded our roster. I'll talk about the guys that are going out the door after the ad break, but Kevin has to stay healthy. There is too much ageism going on when discussing Kevin Durant right now. And if you're one of the people that's like, he's 36, why would you do this? Why would you? Go look at his stats from last season as part of a trash roster. The Suns sucked, and they hated each other, and if you watched a single one of their games, you could see the complete and utter lack of chemistry, which has a very, very, very low chance of being the case with this Rockets team. These guys love each other. They play for each other. They have a great leader off the court in Ime Udoka, and on the court in Fred VanVleet and in Steven Adams, and now in Amen Thompson. Like, they've got the pieces there. Kevin Durant comes in as more veteran leadership. He is still one of the best scorers in basketball. He is inarguably one of the best scorers in the history of the game of basketball. When he's got a good roster around him and good coaching, he is still the Slim Reaper. He is still going to bury people. And what we needed was scoring, and now we've got that. People who don't like the trade just don't like Kevin Durant. My dad is one of them. I was talking to him yesterday. He's like, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. Kevin Durant's kind of a douchebag. I don't think Kevin Durant is a douchebag. I think Kevin Durant is a nice guy and a cool guy. I think Kevin Durant is a douchebag online, on Twitter. Who among us is not a douchebag on Twitter? Everyone on Twitter is a douchebag. It's almost impossible to be on Twitter in 2025 and not be a douchebag. So I'm not worried about Kevin Durant's personality meshing. If he could make it work in Golden State with Draymond Green, We don't have anybody that's unlikable like that. Dillon Brooks was the only comp. And he's gone to make this happen. I'm not worried about KD. If you don't like the trade because you don't like him, just wait and see what happens. It's one of those things where if you don't like KD, just wait till he's pouring it in for your team. And then it's very, very likely that you're going to like him. But Kevin Durant has this reputation of first like, oh, he's a ring chaser because he went to the Warriors. He won back-to-back and won both finals MVPs in those 2 years that they won. Okay? Oh, he's kind of a douchebag. No, he's just a nerd. The guy's perpetually online. If there's anything bad you can say about him, is that he spends too much time on the internet. He's not in legal trouble. He doesn't do anything that makes headlines for the wrong reasons. Yes, he loves basketball. He's a pure hooper. He loves to get online and argue with fans. Who gives a shit? I would probably do the same thing if I was him. It's one of the reasons I like him so much. He strikes me as a relatively normal person who has been an A-list celebrity for 15 fucking years. So the hate towards KD and his personality, I don't really get it. It doesn't really fly for me. I'm not saying you're wrong and you're not allowed to not like him. It's your prerogative. If you don't like the man's personality based on what you see on the internet or whatever you read into, that's fine. I'm just telling you, I think you're probably wrong. He does not strike me as a bad dude. He strikes me as a nerd. He strikes me as someone who's too online. And as someone who has a lot of nerdy qualities myself, but also still loves hooping, and also is perpetually online, I see him as a bird of the same feather, cut from the same cloth. So I don't knock him for any of that. This team, the Rockets team, we need shooting. We need scoring. If you watched every game last season, or even just enough to get a grip on like what the style of play, this was a defensive team. That was our identity. Ime Udoka's toughness and the defensive mentality that this team represents. That was what was winning us so many games. That was what got us the 2 seed in the Western Conference. We were not scoring enough. We didn't have very many people who could consistently shoot a basketball well. In fact, I can't really name one. I mean, not in terms of guys that got a lot of playing time. Amen Thompson, not a great shooter. Fred VanVleet, streaky, but not an every night guy. Dillon Brooks, streaky, but not an every night guy. They're just not many shooters. No pure shooters. Reed Sheppard, pure shooter. Reed Sheppard, not on the court. Did not play almost at all, except in garbage time. Certainly not enough to ever get into a rhythm. Really not enough to even get a feel for the NBA game based on how much he played last season. That's what we'll want to see this upcoming season. The team didn't score enough. We didn't have enough offensive production. We didn't have enough shooters. We didn't have enough three-point shooters, period. That is the gap that Kevin Durant fills. That is the reason they did this trade. Yes, he's a little older. Yes, he's arguably about to pass his prime, but he's got a season or two left in the tank. That's what they're betting on. That's what they're betting on, and that's a bet that I am willing to take emotionally. I am willing to buy all in to what just happened because I agree. I agree with the decision. I believe this dude can still be one of the coldest scorers in the league if given the opportunity and the correct roster is around him, and that's what we needed. He just slides right the fuck in. Instead of the Jalen Green, is it going to be a 20-point night or a 3-point night on 0 for 12 shooting? Now you just have Kevin Durant. He doesn't have a whole lot of those 3-point nights. He never has. He's never had an issue with consistency in his entire 15 fucking year career. He's a scorer through and through. That's what the man does, and that's what he's going to do for us. That's the bet. That's the bet. Okay? When he's healthy and at his best, he is still top 5 in the game at scoring. Top 5 in the game at shooting. Unstoppable offensive force. That's what Kevin Durant has been his entire career, and there is no reason, statistically, go look at his last few seasons. There's no reason to believe that shouldn't continue on a good team with a good roster and good leadership. Okay? People who are saying, oh, well, his last 2 stops didn't really work out. Brooklyn and Phoenix. Brooklyn and Phoenix? 2 of the most poorly run organizations in the NBA? Come on. And Brooklyn still came KD's big toe away for making a real run at a ship. So and again, go look at his numbers on those two teams. He was still Kevin Durant. So I'm just saying, I think if you're using the argument related to Phoenix or to Brooklyn and what happened with those two teams, or if you're using the argument that you don't like him because of his personality, I think you're using faulty data. You're going off of narratives that you've built up in your head and that have been built up online. There's also something to Kade's attachment to James Harden, where people are trying to like put him in the same fold as James Harden. The old Tobias Funke, well, it never works for anyone else, but it might work for us thing. That's not fair. That's not fair to say about a two-time champion, two-time Finals MVP, four-time scoring champ, future Hall of Famer, one-time league MVP. That's not the same guy. No disrespect. I love James Harden. I've been a diehard James Harden defender his entire career, even when a piece of me deep down knew I shouldn't be, because he just didn't have the killer instinct in the same way that the Rockets are betting that Jalen Green didn't have the killer instinct. Kevin Durant has the killer instinct. He will fucking bury you. He will bury you. And if you've watched him in his prime, if you watched him at Golden State when he had a good team around him, you saw what the results can be. So if some of these young guys in the Rockets can continue to take the leap, if Amen Thompson can get a jump shot, if Kevin Durant can teach Jabari Smith Jr. how to dribble a basketball, they're going to bury people, and it is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Go yard all baseball season long with Underdog's Pick'em game. Underdog is a leading place to make all your sports picks, and you can play now in your state. Their app has over 100,000 five-star reviews and millions of players. To play, all you have to do is download the Underdog app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose from things like home runs, strikeouts, total bases, and so much more. If you get your picks correct, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So you could turn $1 into $1,000 using just your baseball knowledge. Never underestimate the heart of a champion. What I normally like to do on Astros game days is go to the Underdog app, click the MLB button, scroll over to the Astros game, and make plays on our specific game. Since I'm going to be watching it, it makes it a little more fun, a little more interesting. But we've got an off day today after winning our series against the Angels yesterday. So another fun thing to do on the Underdog app is go to their daily fantasy battle royales. It's like a little daily fantasy tournament, basically. Like today, they've got the triple play battle royale. It's $3 to enter. I go in and do a little fantasy draft against, in this case, 1,128 other people. Pick 6 players over 6 rounds and fight it out for $3,000 in prizes. It's a blast. Super fun times. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code BTC to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code BTC. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text Next Step to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. So, Jalen Green is gone. His time in Houston is over. The experiment is done. I want to reiterate, I like Jalen Green. I really will be rooting for him in the future. If you saw his Instagram story that he put up yesterday after the trade got announced, you know he really loved these guys that he was playing with and he really enjoyed his time here. He just didn't take the next step that we hoped he would. Simple as that. That's the reason he got traded. I don't think it's a character issue. We don't even know if long-term it'll be that he doesn't have that dog in him. He's 23 years old. It might just take a little longer for him to develop. I wish him well. I hope he kills it. I genuinely do. But the Rockets are not in a position to sit and wait and bet their entire hopes of a championship on that kid anymore. So I get why this happened. But there is really no reason to dislike Jalen Green. He was just too streaky. It was too hit or miss. And when push came to shove and the chips were all on the table in the playoffs against the Warriors, he just couldn't get it done. He couldn't create his own shot. He couldn't create his own shot. If you watched Game 7, you saw it time and again when it was crunch time and we needed somebody who could rise up over the crowd and create their own shot. It wasn't Jalen Green. That person didn't exist. That's why Kevin Durant is here. Because over the course of his entire career, he has been that guy. No one can guard him. It's literally impossible. If he wants to take a shot, He can make a shot from anywhere on the court. Mid-range, pull-up, three-pointers, driving to the hoop. He can do all of it. Jalen couldn't do that. And that's the difference here. It's a 13-year age difference between these two guys. So you're betting big on an aging star being able to continue to produce, and you're waving goodbye to a potential future all-star who I hope becomes one. I genuinely do. But it's as simple as that. There's nothing more complicated about this. Jalen, when it came down to it, didn't get it done when we needed him to. A lot of us that were Jalen Green fans were begging him to show us last season that he was the guy, that they could count on him to be the leading scorer of this franchise in this era, post-rebuild, in the midst of championship runs. And he just didn't do it. And that was that. Dillon Brooks. People really like to hate on Dillon Brooks. He came into the Rockets with this reputation. You remember the memes if you're a big NBA fan and you're perpetually online. Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. What'd he sign, a $200 million deal? He was worth every penny. And the only reason this trade works is because he's getting paid so much. It made the money work. Okay? You have to make the money work. You got to have as much money going out as you have coming in. And Kade makes like $50 million a year. So thank God Dillon Brooks got that contract with the Rockets. And also, he was an enormous part of this rebuild. Incredibly hard worker. I don't have a single bad thing to say about Dillon Brooks. He made some boneheaded fouls here and there when he would let his emotions get the best of him, but frankly, that did not happen very often. For those of you who are longtime fans, you remember Patrick Beverley, who I've got a bobblehead of on the desk right here. Pat Bev would let his emotions get the best of him way, way, way more often than Dillon Brooks did, and I fucking loved Patrick Beverley. Everybody did. Nobody had anything bad to say about Pat Bev. If you did, you're a monster. So, no hard feelings towards Dillon Brooks either. It's kind of a bummer to see him go. That being said, he had sort of lost a step. He's not the lockdown defender that he was a few years ago. He wasn't even, I don't even think he was a top 3 defender on our team. If you're counting like Amen Thompson, Steven Adams, healthy, you know, Tari Eason, like he wasn't that guy. The Terra Twins, he wasn't that guy anymore. Not all the way he was. He's still productive. Still a decent three-point shooter. He would have nights where he'd go off for 25, 30 points, but they were fewer and further between as the season went on. Like, he's not a consistent scorer, and again, that's what we need. Shouts to Dillon Brooks for helping be a part of setting the culture in Houston with Ime Udoka and the mentality that you're not going to let anybody push you around. But he wasn't even the guy like starting fights all the time anymore, really. I mean, he got into it, with Draymond Green and shit in the postseason, but like, the scrappy young guys were the ones throwing down with people on a regular basis. Amen Thompson's the one flinging Tyler Hero across the court mid-regular season. That wasn't Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks is not the villain that people paint him out to be. His reputation does not match what you see on the court. People didn't like that he talked shit, tried to jazz up LeBron during the postseason, and it backfired on him. And they held that against him, and they thought he'd be playing ball in China, and instead he made $200 million, and now he's part of a trade with one of the greatest players in the history of the game in Kevin Durant. So shouts to Dillon Brooks. Thank you for everything you did for us. And there are people who are saying that Dillon Brooks is a loss for the Rockets because he was a culture setter. I want to reiterate something for those of you who are actually paying attention. That is just an absurd argument to make. Ime Udoka is the culture setter for this franchise. And then beyond Ime Udoka, if you watched last season, Amen Thompson is a culture setter for this franchise. Fred VanVleet is a culture setter for this franchise. You don't need more than that. That's 3. Dillon was an anchor. He was sort of like this brand that already existed that you could use to juice the culture that they were trying to build, but like he wasn't setting the tone day in and day out. I loved his pregame routine, standing there like a psycho, just staring off into the distance. I'll miss that dearly. But we don't need Dillon if we've got Kevin Durant. KD's not no slouch defensively either, and he's got about 4 extra feet of wingspan. So Dillon Brooks did what he needed to do. That signing worked in spades. Another one that when Rafael Stone did it, people were like, I don't know, what? Dude, that's a lot of money for Dillon Brooks. That was the one piece. I liked the idea, but I thought it was too much money. Now it all worked out perfectly. So shouts to Dillon Brooks. I hope he enjoys his time in Phoenix. Now look at the Rockets' potential starting 5 and get excited. if you're up and walking around, you may want to preemptively tuck it into your waistline because erection might occur. Fred VanVleet, point guard. Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Şengün. You keep that starting five healthy, and you keep the depth on the bench healthy, which is always a big roll of the dice in the NBA, especially with KD being a little bit older. That's a 55-63 win team. That team now has the second best Vegas odds to win the NBA championship next season. Right there, just on paper. That's huge. That's a great team. Keeping the young depth that we have kept with Tari Eason and Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd, betting on their development continuing to go in the right direction, which really the only young guy, there's two young guys who we didn't see enough from in terms of development year over year. One is Jalen Green, now he's gone. The other is Jabari Smith Jr., who has apparently already been training with Kevin Durant for the last couple seasons. So they have a relationship. For those of you who watched this season, Jabari Smith, you can see the potential still. He just can't fucking dribble. I'm not sure how that happens. I don't know how you get to the NBA and still can't dribble a basketball, but like, if Kevin Durant can continue to help with Jabari Smith Jr.'s development, which is clearly one of the things the Rockets are betting on, this is going to be a really, 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 really good team. This is the biggest splash the Rockets have made since they traded for James Harden. Now, the problem with that era of Rockets basketball is that they brought in Harden and it was kind of just the James Harden show. We never really built a decent lineup around the guy. Daryl Morey couldn't quite configure the pieces around Harden. It couldn't quite figure out what was their identity, what was their style. It just became the James Harden show. And it was a hell of a show to watch. I loved every fucking second of it, as devastating as it was in the end, and as devastating as that, 27 missed threes in a row against the Golden State Warriors or whatever. Fuck you, Scott Foster. It was a great show. This is different in that the culture has been built, the culture has been set, the tone has been set, the leadership is there, Ime Udoka is there, they've built the brand of basketball that they want to play, and then they bring in Kevin Durant. Now, it's obviously also not the same because KD is a little older. And again, none of this matters if Kevin Durant gets hurt, which is why his health and safety needs to be a number one priority for this team. Almost to the point where I would say like maybe minutes restrictions during the regular season should be a thing. Because you need this guy 100% on the court when the postseason comes around, which it absolutely fucking will. So that's if you're comparing the two most recent exciting eras in Rockets basketball, the James Harden show versus this is not the Kevin Durant show. This is Amen Thompson might be a top 3 two-way player in the league in the next couple seasons. This is Alperen Şengün is still baby Jokic, has a ton of potential, had some ups and downs during the postseason, but for the most part is a 20-10 guy who's going to get you more than that a lot of the nights of the year. This is a defensive core that is among the best in basketball and was all season long. And again, Kevin Durant is no defensive slouch. His length alone gives him the opportunity to be a pretty fucking good stopper one-on-one. You've got Steven Adams healthy. You've got Steven Adams re-signed. You've got all the pieces you need. Fred VanVleet's new deal should be coming through. The Rockets are in a really, really good spot. And I know there is some fear and trepidation around betting the farm on Kevin Durant, but part of me is also like, they're not. They're not. Like, even if this fails, they're still in an incredible position for the future because they held on to enough of their future assets. They held on to all of the young core minus Jalen Green. They've got their coach locked in. So the future is now and it's later if you're a Rockets fan. And that's what makes this so great. That's what makes this trade so phenomenal. And that is all I have to say today. Thank you for being here for today's show. Remember, our show is available not only on youtube.com/@bangingthecan, where if you are watching right now, you need to mash the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave comments with your thoughts on the Kevin Durant trade, your arguments against my takes, your backing of my other takes that you do support. Hit me in the comments section, subscribe. If you're on the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, rate and review. Spotify, same thing. Share our show with your friends and family. The most unapologetic sports show in Houston. Share it. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Follow us on social media @BangingTheCan on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Threads. Share our social media posts when you see them. Support our sponsors. Today we have Underdog. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code BTC to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code BTC. Terms apply. See details. Check out my media startup, Bolen Media. We've got some other shows. F1 fans, check out Formula Bone, hosted by Jared J. Bone Borislow, bringing you a preview and recap of every race all F1 season long. Arguably the greatest American F1 content creator in the game, at Formula Bone on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Threads, youtube.com/@FormulaBone to watch his show. If you are an F1 fan, you will love Formula Bone. More from me on the Ross Bolen podcast. I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WRBOLEN. I will be back soon. Subscribe. Comment, like, rate, review. Until next time, H-Town. Stay down. KD for 3!